Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. It's Sunday night. We're here to talk. I want to talk to you about a friend of mine in Wilmington, North Carolina, a professor there by the name of Dr. Mike Adams. You may know of him. If you live in Wilmington, you probably do. Mike's a man that you really do not want to debate. He's got a mind that's razor sharp. His logic is impeccable. He recently debated an abortionist on the issue of whether or not abortion is a moral responsibility for the Christian. Yeah, that's the premise this abortion doctor was willing to debate. The debate was held on the campus of the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. It featured Dr. Willie Parker, former medical director of Planned Parenthood Metropolitan in Washington, D.C., a man who calls himself a reproductive justice advocate and is author of a book. It's entitled Life's Work, A Moral Argument for Choice. And then, of course, on the other side of the stage was Mike, Dr. Mike Adams, professor of criminology at UNCW, pro-life speaker at Summit Ministries, an all-around good guy. Now, this abortion doctor, professing to be a Christian, says he began performing abortions after having an epiphany. Now, an epiphany is a spiritual thing. We usually identify it with God. Remember this word. He had this epiphany while listening to a sermon about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, you're smart. You know where this is going, don't you? Parker is an OBGYN who provides abortions at clinics in 5 states: Alabama, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Illinois. A man who's claiming that a sermon by Martin Luther King Jr. is what impacted his career. He said Dr. King said that what made the Good Samaritan good was his ability to reverse the question of concern. Instead of asking what will happen to me if I stop to help this person, he asked what will happen to this person if I don't stop to help him. Now, for me, I'm reasonably certain that Dr. King was not talking about abortion on demand, primarily due to the fact that Dr. King was a Christian, and also that abortion on demand was not legal during his lifetime. Parker went on to list other facts that had persuaded him. For example, he says 1 in 4 women will have an abortion by the time they're 45. While maternal mortality in this country is at an all-time high and illegal abortions are unsafe. Now, he went on to say, as someone who has chosen medicine as the craft, I have an ethical responsibility to provide health care to that woman. Do you hear the logic? I can do it. Therefore, I have an ethical responsibility to kill these babies because the mothers need it done, and I can do it. He went on to say, and as a Christian, I'm thrilled that I have the moral responsibility to provide compassionate care to that woman, even in the face of people who stridently disagree with me, many of who, the grammar here should be whom, share the same faith identity with me, and many of whom stand silent or stand with disregard, as 11 people have been murdered in the course of providing abortion care or seeking it. Now, here the logic seems to be that killing adults is worse than killing babies. Adams took exception to Parker's use of the parable of the Good Samaritan, saying, I agree that the Good Samaritan is a good parable because I often ask the question, who is my neighbor? And I'll answer that question for you right now. My neighbor is that unborn child. He went on to say, you will notice something about that parable. When someone was robbed and beaten and lying by the side of the road, you know what the Good Samaritan didn't do? The Good Samaritan didn't stop by the side of the road and slit his throat and slowly and methodically dismember him. He went on to say, I believe that the Good Samaritan parable is a pro-life parable, and I don't appreciate it being hijacked in the name of God. That's obscene. Adams went on to note that 60 million innocent human beings have been aborted since the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision. Much of the debate focused on the definitions of human beings and persons. Parker's position is that fetuses are not human beings, not really people. And if a fetus is not a person and a woman is a person, they may both have moral weight, but the moral weight is not equal. And the question becomes, given that a fetus is inside of a woman, how do you give rights to that fetus that you are not simultaneously taking away from the woman where the fetus is inside of? Adams went on to say that Parker was just now clouding the reality of abortion. Abortion is about intentionally killing complete human beings, distinct, living, and whole human beings, and doing it in the name of bodily autonomy. Adams went on to say, you cannot pit the right of life against the right to liberty or against the pursuit of happiness. Why? Because there's no moral right to intentionally kill an innocent human being, even if it makes you freer, even if it makes you happier. Because if we did that, it would negate all rights for all people, including the right to life itself. Did I mention that abortionists hate logic?